Okay, so in this lesson, we will be learning about how to use the discriminant in the quadratic formula. Okay, so quadratic equations, they can have 1, 2, or no solutions. Okay, so 0 solutions. So how many solutions is like the number of roots, okay, which is shown on the graph below. And remember that the roots are the number of times it crosses the x-axis, okay? So the first parabola, which is the graph right here, the roots are here and here, okay, wherever it crosses the x. So in this case, there are 2 roots, okay? In the next one, I see that we're only being crossed the x-axis 1 time, so there is 1 root. And then in the third one, I don't see it crossing it any time, so here we have 0. Okay, it doesn't cross. So the reason that we use this is because sometimes all we want to know is how to graph it, okay? So there is an easier way that we can do this by just determining the number of solutions that the quadratic formula has, okay? We can do this by using something called the discriminant. Okay, so this is the part that is under the square root symbol. Okay, so the part that's circled in the quadratic formula right here, that's underneath the square root symbol, this is your discriminant. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to try using the discriminant for each of these to figure out the number of solutions, okay? Because sometimes that's all we want to know. So for the first one, let's try using it. So A is equal to 1, B is equal to -6, and C is equal to 6. Okay, so setting up the quadratic formula, -b plus, b is 6. -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c over 2a. Okay, so remember that the discriminant is just whatever is underneath here. Okay, so our answer here that we're going to get is 36 minus 24, which is going to be 12. Okay, so our answer is positive. Whenever you have a positive answer underneath, there will be 2 solutions. Okay, so it will cross the x-axis twice. Okay, so that's the first kind, 2 solutions, when our answer is positive. Okay, let's try the next one. So A is 1, B is -6, C is 9. Okay, so -b plus or minus the square root of b minus 4 times a times c over 2a. Okay, so again, just looking at the part underneath the discriminant, I have 36 minus 36, which is 0. Okay, when your answer is 0, there is 1 solution. Oops, there is 1 solution. Okay, which also means that it crosses the x-axis 1 time. All right, and then let's go ahead and do the last one. A is 1, B is -6, and C is 10. Okay, so -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c over 2a. Okay, taking the discriminant, here underneath is 36 minus 40, which is going to be -4. Okay, so here my solution is negative. Okay, so whenever you have a negative underneath the square root sign for the discriminant, there will be no solutions. Okay, so I want to take a minute and just, let's look at the actual equations. A, B, and C. If we go back up to the top, we can actually see that these, in fact, are the graphs of those, okay? So just to get a visual of what it looks like, 2, 1, and 0. How many times it crosses the x? How many solutions? Okay? Okay, so here we want to know, well, what is the relationship between the discriminant of a function and the number of solutions? Okay, so we just kind of went over this, so let's just write it out to make sure that we have it, okay? So the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac, okay? It's what's underneath the square root sign, okay? So if our answer is positive, we know that there are going to be 2 solutions. Okay, if our answer is 0, we know that there's going to be 1 solution. And if our answer is negative, okay, we have no solutions. All right, let's move on. Okay, so let's just do a little bit of review first to figure out what are some of the other names that we learned about for the x-intercepts, where it crosses the x-axis, okay? So we just talked about today it could be called a solution. And earlier we learned about it being called a root, okay? Or, like, what are the zeros? Okay, so all of these mean x-intercepts. Okay, let's try and determine whether the graph of the equation to the right has 0, 1, or 2 points. Okay, so the first step here is to set up the discriminant. Okay, so here we have A is 4, B is negative 12, and C is 9. Okay, so the discriminant here is B squared minus 4AC. So B squared, 144, minus 4 times A times C. Okay, so we're going to get 144 minus 144, which is equal to 0. Okay, so because we have 0 as our answer, we have 1 solution. Okay, and then just step 2 is state the number of times it crosses. All right, let's try the same thing for part 2. Okay, so here in this case we have 1 on the right, so we need to subtract it over. So we have 3x squared minus 5x minus 1 equals 0. We need to set it equal to 0. Okay? And then I can find out A, B, and C. A is 3, B is negative 5, and C is negative 1. Okay, so filling in for the discriminant, B squared minus 4AC. Okay, set up discriminant. B squared is negative 5, so 25 minus 4 times 3 times negative 1. Okay, 4 times 3 times negative 1 is 12. And 25 minus 12 is 37. Okay, so it's positive, so we have 2 solutions. Okay, and actually, you guys, in number 1, I just realized it said find the number of x-intercepts. So it's really not necessarily one solution, it's one intersection, okay, where it crosses. So this should actually be one intersection. It's the same thing. Okay, and here they're saying the number of solutions, and it's 2 solutions because our answer is positive. Okay?